We 1-0 up. We need you second half. I'll do anything. We need you to stand up and perform. Yeah. If you don't stand up and perform, we lose this game.
Yeah.
That's why he's rubbing your legs?
That's why he's rubbing your legs.
What's everyone else doing whilst he's rubbing your legs?
Wondering why he's rubbing my legs. And that was his way, his compliment. And he'd come back in, and I'll come back in at second half, and I'll get up to go, and he'd say, Desmond, well played.
Oh, that's the fun.
You carried us today. Well played. That's it. And honestly, you walk down and you walk out of your car and you think, I'm going out to have a drink tonight.
We'll get back to Des in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And as ever, if there's something on your mind, if something is bubbling up inside of you that you need to express, please express it in the comments. The Big D reads all of the comments and he's always interested in what is on your mind. Anyway, in this clip, Des Walker, one of the most underrated centre-backs in English football history, gives an hilarious account of a little story from the late, great Brian Clough, the greatest English manager to have never managed England and arguably one of the greatest managers of all time, one of the few managers to have won back-to-back European Cups. Anyway, stick around for after the clip because the Big D is going to be giving his thoughts on this fantastic story as told by Des Walker. Here he is.
Be truthful. My only way out was there.
Did you miss Brian Clough, though, or you had enough of Brian Clough as well after being...
He had gone then by then. He wasn't at his best.
Right.
But I was a product of Brian Clough, so I was my own Brian Clough,
right.
If you know what I mean. I think starting off with Brian Clough is the best thing any player can have, but it can also be the worst because the rest of the managers are never going to get close, right? So the problem is, you know, he had two good managers probably, do you know what I mean? I had one. I had one good manager and the rest were...
But you know, Des, when we talk about Brian Clough, the lads here, even in Jill, you find it amazing, the stories, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, they can't get their heads around the way he treated players, his messages to players, the simplicity. You find it hard to believe, isn't it? But he was...
No, he was unreal because, first of all, you knew your job. You know what your job entailed. Yeah. And I think when I came as a 16-year-old, he didn't teach me... He did teach me football to a degree, but the main thing he taught me is to be a man, was to stand up and take responsibility, to respect other people, other teammates, to help your mate, do you know what I mean, yeah? And to take criticism, to be fair, you know, and people don't take criticism well. And I think in the modern people don't take criticism well. But he sometimes, he could murder you. I can remember at 16 being in the reserves, I'm sat in there, and I've playing against Notts County, and the Stuart Bevan, I think his name was, he always gave me a problem. You know what I mean? No, I was right back there, you give me a problem. And I came in and he looked at me and he said, son, how do you think you played?
The impression's brilliant.
And I says, this ain't going to go well. You know, you think stuff's not going well with this. And I said, shit, gaffer. His face. Son, I didn't think you played that well. Or 16, do you know what I mean?
Was it tough love with him all the time, or was there any time where he gave you some
No,
love?
there's times he gave you a pat on the back and you felt $1 million. I've got to be truthful, you walked tall because it come from... And I think the cocker you were, and I was a Londoner, and the more confident you were, the less he's going to give you.
Right.
Yeah.
But he still had to give you every now and again. And he used to have this thing, and I never really understood what he meant. I didn't understand. I had no clue at first, and you work it out. And we're coming at half-time. And he would walk up to me, and I'd be sat on a chair like that, and he'd start getting deep and start rubbing it in my legs.
Whoa.
And he's kneeling on the floor, and I think to myself, this guy's a lunatic. You know, you think to yourself, he's a nutcase. And he says, get Desmond a coffee. Because I always had a coffee at half-time. So
He called you Desmond?
Yeah. He's patronising, so it's always Desmond. Yeah, Desmond. And you know what I mean? It's never, as long as he's your dad, isn't he? And he's rubbing my legs, I deep neck. Do you want a whiskey, son? I said, no, thanks, Gaffer. Get him another coffee. And honestly, for 5 minutes, rubbed my legs. No team talk. And then he'd get up, the ball's in the middle of the floor on the towel, and he'd say, that's what you play with. You got to get it first before you can play it. Get the ball. And we'd go out. And I think to myself, what's he rubbing my leg for? You know, okay. You know what you're saying? We 1-0 up. We need you second half. I'll do anything. We need you to stand up and perform. Yeah. If you don't stand up and perform, we lose this game.
Yeah.
That's why he's rubbing your legs.
That's why he's rubbing
What's
your legs.
everyone else doing whilst he's rubbing your leg?
Wondering why he's rubbing my legs. And that was his way, his compliment. And he'd come back in, and I'll come back in at second half, and I'll get up to go, and he'd say, Desmond, well played.
Oh, that's the fun.
You carried us today. Well played. That's it. And honestly, you walk down and you say never. You walk out of your car and you think, I'm going out to have a drink tonight.
Des, who was the best player you played against?
Against? Centre forward or player?
Up against, yeah.
Marco Van Basten.
Van Basten.
Marco Van Basten and Diego Maradona. I played against who was at Barcelona. Best football I've ever seen on a football field. But he didn't play centre forward. He played anywhere. Best football I've ever seen. But Marco Van Basten is a centre forward. I played against him 3 times at Milan a couple of times, and he probably made me internationally known because brought the best out of me. But make no mistake about it, this geezer was good at everything. All round, was a really good player. But he was a pain in the arse, to be fair.
Well, yeah, Marco,
So there's a lot of good players. Rushy, there's a lot of good players out there, you know what I mean? And I think...
What about Lineker?
Good finisher, good finisher. And a lot of bottle. You know, I think when it comes down to putting the ball in the back of the net is probably the hardest thing you can do in football. And at times, you're under so much pressure. I think he didn't seem to feel pressure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. When others would, do you know what I mean? He didn't seem to feel. Kane, to a degree, is similar. Do you know what I mean? Don't seem to feel that pressure. He'll stick it in the back of the net no matter what. He'll miss one and go again. He missed a penalty, go again. He's not. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Lineker that's his biggest strength to me, was that he was fearless in terms of making a mistake. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, he was a good player. Rushy, another one who's phenomenal movement, phenomenal sharpness. But in our day, I've always thought to myself, I don't really pick and choose, because if I pick and choose, then there's maybe the effort levels changes. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you only get 3 points at Wimbledon, then you get 3 points for Tottenham or Everton or, you know. So Wimbledon, you know, it's a battle. Do you know what I mean? But it's the same 3 points.
And no, this is not really a Manchester United clip, so to speak, but you all know, you regular viewers of at the Big D _, you all know that the Big D is a big fan of the late great Brian Clough. And I mean, one of the reasons for that is because he was the best, certainly one of the best. And I've always been a fan of the best, whether that's in acting, whether that's in football, whether that's in boxing, snooker, anything like that whatsoever. I've always been a big fan of whoever the best is. And that's why the Big D will always back Lionel Messi as being the best player of all time, and not Cristiano Ronaldo, because the Big D gives the brutally honest truth. And I would personally say that Brian Clough is probably the greatest English manager of all time. I mean, there's Alf Ramsey. He was brilliant. People would probably say Bobby Robson as well. There's Bob Paisley. But considering what Brian Clough did, I mean, he took over Derby County, he got them promoted, they won the league, and then he did the same thing again with Nottingham Forest. He got them promoted from Division 2 into Division 1. They won the league in their first season back, I think. And then the following season, he wins the European Cup, and then he wins the European Cup again. I mean, how weird is that? Fergie didn't do that. Jose Mourinho didn't do that. Pep Guardiola didn't do that. Ancelotti didn't do that. That is a unique achievement. And Alex Ferguson talks about what his greatest attribute was as a football manager. And he says that it's communication. Communication skill is, I mean, there's other things that you do need. You need to be able to, at the very least, know how to spot a good player. But your ability to communicate what you want from your team to your team is paramount. Because how can they do what they're supposed to do if they don't know what they're supposed to do? It's the manager that's meant to tell them what to do. And I mean, this clip just goes to show. And this is just one of many clips. I mean, the Big D's got a few Brian Clough stories on his Big D channel. This is just one of many that Brian Clough used to take an unorthodox, memorable approach to get his message across. And in this instance, he needed to make sure Des Walker, the commanding centre-back, held that line like a soldier from the mighty 300, a Spartan soldier. And his ability to do that, it earned Nottingham Forest 3 points in this instance. And it probably made Des Walker feel like King Leonidas from the film 300. And just doing that, just making him feel special. Because sometimes you need to make people feel special. And it's that fine balance. Sometimes you need to bring people down a peg or two. Sometimes you need to build them up a little bit. And in this instance, you needed to make Des Walker feel like King Leonidas from the film The Mighty 300. It's not called The Mighty 300, but they were mighty and they were 300, but the film was called 300. And I recommend you check that one out if you haven't already seen it. It's got Gerard Butler as King Leonidas, who looks nothing like Des Walker, by the way. But yeah, Brian Clough was absolutely fantastic. And just imagine what England would have been like if Brian Clough had been given the reins. I think personally, England would have won a World Cup because the talent that England had in the 80s was just absolutely phenomenal. Des Walker, Terry Butcher, Gary Lineker, Paul Gascoigne, Glenn Hoddle, Kevin Keegan, all these great players. Brian Robson, arguably, well, certainly one of the top 5 greatest English players of all time. Just absolutely dripping with talent, but we were never able to translate that into silverware for England. It's weird, that. It really is weird. But hey, what do you guys think? If Brian Clough had been England manager, do you think he would have won a World Cup or a Euros for that matter? Would we have seen more from players like Glenn Hoddle, Paul Gascoigne, Brian Robson in an England shirt? You tell me. Thoughts in the comments, and the Big D will see you in the next one.